Cheyenne? I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life.
Here we go. Welcome to Black Lodge Trivia Night. I am Art, and we're trying to do something a little different tonight just to see how it works. And that is a live recording of one of our sessions. In the words of the immortal poet Bill O'Reilly, fuck it, we'll do it live. We're going to give it a shot. It's just something I was curious how it might work with some of the software I've been messing with, and I thought I'd give it a shot. So we're back. Obviously, Matt and Patrick are not going to be able to join us tonight. A lot of real life going on at the moment. So we're going to do another Tales of the Strider. And let's see. Getting a lot of warnings. I don't know how this is going to go. There's obviously going to be like a for real backup on, like, even if the YouTube one, I don't know what it's going to look like. I'm getting like really weird stream bit rates, and I don't know why. I'm wondering if it is because I'm trying to do too much on my end. I don't know if that's the case though. But so we're gonna have like a for real. We're gonna have like a for real thing going on. Let me see if I can stop this. Stop recording. Okay. Yeah, let me see if this actually changes the bitrate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do a live session of Tales of the Strider, the One Ring. Let me see. I got to get something really quickly over here. Got to get my Strider mode rulebook. So last time, if you remember, we had met with, let me bring up the right map here. It's not this one. It's going to be this one. So if you remember last time, we started the quest over here at the last bridge. I mistakenly meant to do it somewhere over here at like the Forsaken Inn. But we got we had a meeting with our patron, who is Gilraine the Fair, mother of Aragorn. She thanked us for our service in the first cycle, and we retreated to the Forsaken Inn and did a fellowship phase. After we did that, we went to, we met up with a messenger from Gilraine who said they had received a little bit of a distress signals too much to, it's overselling it, but there's one of the random quests from your patron in the solo book is a settlement has come under the eye of shadow. Why is this place significant? And the place is this town of Thornmount. So something sort of jumped out at me, like when I was like, I feel like I should know something. I shouldn't just wing the names of towns. And so that actually got me to look into other books besides the rule book, and specifically Tales from the Lone Lands and Ruins of the Lost Realm. So I got a little bit more background of some of the things that might be going on in this area. There's actually an adventure in Tales from the Lone Land that deals right in this area, and I was tempted to just dive in, but part of me wanted to sort of keep this made up as we go along, so we'll see how that goes. If I start to flounder, I might start to run this adventure, but so we basically, the last session was a journey from the Forsaken Inn, roughly around here, through Bree, did a quick pit stop, paid my rent, made it over to Hobbiton, and then followed the river north. When we got to about here, we realized we encountered like some slaughtered sheep that looked like it had just been torn apart. We guessed by wargs. And then shortly thereafter, we found the shepherd himself also sort of eviscerated, attacked. So sort of took that to, I probably should have given myself a shadow point for that or something. I don't know. But so we sort of moved on from there, got into the North Moors. At one point here, one of the encounters was that I heard sort of like the howling of a pack of wargs. So there's definitely something going on in these hills that is not entirely cool. So at the end of the, so then we made our way all the way to Thornmount. And that's where we're going to pick it up. So I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there's a couple of settlements that I'm going to start incorporating from Tales of the Lone Lands. And now that I say that, I forget the name of the settlement. It's like the Vale of the Golden Hill or something like that. And it's going to be somewhere up around not too far where we are. So that's going to be an actual official area we're going to get involved in the story, not just the ones I randomly name generate from the Oracle here in the Ironsworn module that I keep running for extra ideas. So first things first. So we get here, let's say we arrive midday, and Thornmount, well, let's just get a little descriptions. It's got to be a settlement. Let's start there. And, well, I guess we're not going to need... Let's just do this and see what it says. Curse pass, innocent accused, corrupted by dark magic. Okay, so we get to Thornmount, and it's basically an outpost at best. It's not like a fully functioning town. It's more like I would picture it more like a sort of like a fur trader, in the French and Indian War kind of thing on the front. It's just a collection of in this case men that have sort of tried to get away from Middle Earth. Is a busy place. There's conflict. And rather than stand up to it, they want to find a little corner, bury their head, and not at all deal with it. That's sort of how I'm picturing this place. So I get there, and so I stroll in. I think it's going to be clear that I am a ranger, a warden. And so I sort of picture the scene like, you sort of walk, and it's like a mud road through the, huts that have been built on either side of it. And it's that thing where like everybody just sort of looks at you like, who's this? What's going on? Things like that. So I make my way, and maybe somebody finally approaches me and says, with all due respect, Warden, what is it that you want? Is there anything that we can help you with? And so I look the person up and down, and I sort of side eye everybody around me, and I start to notice that I don't want to say they're threatening, like weapons out, but they're sort of circling, so I've suddenly got people on my flanks, on my sides, and then the person that I'm talking to is directly in front of me. And I sort of looked the person up and down, and I said, well, my patron sent word that maybe there are some difficulties here, and that maybe a warden could be of help. And so as I say that, like a chuckle comes from over the shoulder of the person I'm addressing, and somebody sort of steps out from like a patchwork, half-built log cabin with a tarp over it, like trying to plant roots down, but it hasn't completely happened yet. And and so he steps forward, and he looks me up and down, and I can tell immediately that he's a ranger of the North. And maybe he's not in like, full uniform or whatever it might be, but maybe he's got like the classic pendant, like a fastener holding his cloak. And I sort of catch that. And he looks me up and down. He's like, look, I'm sure Gilrain has heard some whispers. She seems to have ears everywhere. But there isn't too much, worthy of a warden's time. Especially something that we, couldn't handle ourselves. And you know what? Let me get a roll going here. See if I don't know if that's my fellowship. I'm gonna roll awareness. I roll a success. Okay, so again, awareness is like a favored trait, so I get to roll 2 feat dice, take the highest one. On the success dice, I didn't get any 6s, so it's just a normal success. But when when the person in front of me says, like, it's something we can't handle, I noticed like a couple people sort of like look at each other like they disagree, but they don't want to speak up. And so I catch that out of the corner of my eye, and I don't do anything with that yet. And so I sort of mark in sort of in my mind, okay, those two, maybe I can try and talk to them later. And maybe I've got a map or something I can bring up. Journal, items, scenes. I'm always looking for, I'm always looking for something visual to help me. Like a village might be too, let's just take a look. Yeah, this is fine. This is close enough. So, let's say I'm here. You can, maybe this is a little overbuilt, but it's the basic idea. It's very sort of limited, small in scope, surrounded by forests and the hills, the western hills on Lake Evendim. And let's just say, well, I don't know. Adversaries. We'll throw a ruffian chief out here to represent this person. And let's say like there's, people surrounding me. And then the person I was originally talking to that sort of stepped aside. And so this is the guy who... Oh, that's interesting. They automatically have the line of sight built in for other characters. Okay. So anyway, so I, that's who I'm addressing. I can tell he's a former warden. Let's say these two over here were the ones that looked at each other that I sort of caught out of the corner of my eye. And, they, but they, again, they're not trying to speak out in front of the boss. They're not trying to make him look weak. So I sort of note that and keep it in mind. And so I say, I get that, and I respect that. You have chosen to seek your autonomy. But I have my orders, as you probably are aware, even if, it's not the life you choose to follow anymore. But, and I need to investigate what's going on. So, I won't be any trouble. I won't bother you. If you're agreeable to me sort of setting up a camp sort of within your perimeter, just to maybe afford some safety. I've heard the howlings the last night or two that have me a little concerned, and maybe wonder if your assessment of what's going on might not be entirely complete. Again, trying to pick my words carefully. And he's like, well, you know what? Let's do this officially. Let's do this as a as a council session. So I'm trying to convince him that to sort of, let me investigate without getting, I don't want to say getting in my way, but he clearly doesn't want me here. And so I'm going to convince him that I won't be a bother. And he also has to not feel threatened by what I might find. So let's go to the council stage. The first thing we need to do is set the resistance. There's 3 types of resistances. There's a reasonable request, a bold request, and an outrageous request. This does not strike me as a bold request per se, but do I leave it to chance because he's a former warden and he clearly left for a reason? So let me do a sort of 50-50, one of those rolls. If I can remember, these are random encounters. Lore table, revelation, roll telling. Is this it? So I think, is this a bold claim? Let me just, okay. So let me rephrase that. Is this a reasonable claim? And I think the answer is likely yes. I'm not going to count that roll. So I'm looking for likely. Is this a reasonable claim? Ooh, okay. I should have took the first roll. Okay, so for some reason, this is an unreasonable claim. So we're going to make this a 6 resistance. Okay. And sort of like a lot of, it's been a while since I've done a council session. If you go all the way back to very early in the first cycle of this adventure, you have to, it's basically a lot like Forged in the Dark, kind of like the clocks, where you have to sort of get a certain number of successes in a certain amount of time, and you succeed or fail based on that. So the first thing we need to do is we need to do an introduction. So at the beginning of a council, the company must present themselves, and you use a couple of different a couple different skills to do that. You can try awe, courtesy, riddle. Now, I think I'm okay at one of those, but let me double check which one I'm okay at. Awe is not great. Riddle is favored and has 2 pips. So I feel like that might be my best shot. Courtesy. Yeah, courtesy and awe are both equally weak. So what I do for riddle, how do I explain this? So what I do is I sort of, I can't tell if the people know that this person's sort of like an AWOL warden. You don't just get to choose to leave and run away and do whatever you want. And so maybe what I sort of do is I surreptitiously, like with a wink and a nod, hint at, use language that would convey, like, look, hear me out. Nobody has to know that you're here and what's going on. And so let's see if that works. Doesn't look like a great roll. So it's a failure. So he's pretty short-tempered. So if a roll is a failure, the time limit is equal to 3. If the roll is a success, the time limit equal to 4 plus 1 for each success icon rolled. So I'm going to have 3 rounds to get 6 successes. I have a feeling this is going to go very poorly. So, okay, so now we go on to the interactions. This is the main and most challenging part of most social gatherings, from a birthday party to an official audience with a lord or lady. So what we're going to do now is we have to choose a skill. The players choose their own course of action as they see fit, but their skill rolls can be modified by the attitude of the people they encounter. Is reluctant, open, friendly. I feel like I've jammed myself up with all these failures that he's a little cold. And the fact that I represent like his past life that he's AWOL from, I could see being a bit of a danger. So again, I have this, you can use enhearten, which mine is non-existent. Insight, which is not bad. Persuade, which is not great. Riddle, which again is strong, and then song, which I know I completely said F that, I don't care about song. So I think my best chance again is going to be riddle. And so I think in this case what riddle means is not it's not literally riddles, but it's like it's the way salesmen talk is like, wouldn't you say that it's bad to have skin rashes? And of course you sort of phrase the questions in ways that there's no way they're going to say, I disagree with that. So let's see how we do. Now I'm doing this, but it's going to be a modifier of -1. And I think that's going to, well, it's going to be 1 die. So I don't think we're looking for that. I think we're actually looking for this. Ah, man. So let's see how this goes. Okay, great success. Okay, so the way I think that works is I got a success and then I got a bonus success. So I think this is the first round. I don't know how I'm going to be able to pull this off. And I've gotten 2 successes. So let me just double check that I'm doing this right. We got the resistance, introduction. Boom, boom, boom. So yeah, so we've gotten 2 out of the 6 successes, but we've burned 1 turn. And we only have 3. I wonder if there's a rule in Strider mode how like you get bonuses or anything. Let me just double check, because like if people were helping, I could see how you might be able to have better luck, but I'm not quite getting if this is just going to be a real tough ask because I screwed everything up so far. The system, boom. Who cares? We'll just go with it like normal. So we've gotten 2 successes, but we've burned 1 of our turns. And so I sort of persuade him a little bit. Let's give him a name. So let's see. Middle Earth name generator. I can't see if I'm spelling that right. Race name generator. Okay. We're going to say he is... not Bree. Dale? Would it be Dale? Dunlending? Okay. We're going to say his name is Hadant. So let me see if this... Hadant. Okay, so basically I probably should write that down because I'm not typing it in. So I think, I do enough of that salesy, like, and wouldn't you say that you'd prefer to, have a working plumbing than not having working plumbing? So I get him to agree to enough things that he's like, okay. And I continue to sort of make my point. Like, and therefore, don't you agree? Again, going with that approach. So let's do another riddle roll. Again, I -1 die because this guy is not open to what I'm selling here. It's an automatic success. So I don't think I'm going to be able to do this because I've gotten 3 successes, but I've burned 2 of my turns and I've only have 1 left. So he's like, okay, but I feel like I'm losing him. I'm going to do the thing anyway just to see how close I get. But failure. Ooh, that's too bad because I would have gotten 5 out of the 6 I needed. But so the meeting is a failure. And Hadant, says, hey, I wish you no harm, but, we came here to escape the troubles in the rest of Eriador. So, no offense, stranger, but if you could, be on your way, we would appreciate that. And so I sort of look everybody up and down. And, before I forget, let me just do something really quickly. I'm going to give myself 3 skill points for my last session. Okay. Anyway. So I sort of nod and, of course, again, it's like 6 or 7 on 1. I'm not about to do anything stupid. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. So I sort of move on from town, and let's go back to here. So let's say I just go back 1. And let's check what the weather is. Again, I'm using a weather table from the excellent Harnmaster system. It's a lot, but what's there can be really good. So we need to roll a 1d10. You start here, weather change. Let's just get a general idea of what the weather is. I'm going to roll a 1d10. You get a 6. 6 is the same. So we're going to leave it here. Where we're at, it's spring, so it's freezing. It's exceptionally cold for the season. The wind is northerly, 0 to 2, which means, again, we're looking on the scale 0 to 2. So we're going to roll a 1d3 to figure that out. 1d3. Nope, I did that wrong. Okay, there we go. 1d3. We get a 2, so it's going to be windy. So pretty strong winds is probably helping the cold really cut through. And, yeah. There we are. So let's say we spent most of the day getting into the town, doing the talking, having the council session that turned out to be a failure. And then I make my way back. Maybe I make my way toward the water, maybe more towards the shore. I don't know, thinking that might help. And I can sort of look across the lake. And, I'm going to unfog, brush tool, grid tool. Let's unfog Anuminas. And, I'm sort of sitting there on the shore. I've got a campfire and I've got my tent pitched. And across the lake, do I have something for that? I don't know if I left. I don't know if this is literally a Numinas, but I've used it in other adventures for stand-in. I keep getting warnings for the bit. Again, I've never done this live this way. And I'm not using OBS, I'm using vMix. And vMix is very cool because it's streaming, but at the same time it's also recording, and it's also recording a second stream of just my camera, so I have that clean. And that's why I was kind of curious to give this a shot. Now, the current bitrate it says is 7,500, which is fine. Before, at one point, like when I paused for a second, it got down to like 300. And so there what I did was I stopped the recording and started the recording up again in a different file format that was less hungry, I hope. Anyway, not that anybody cares. So, sitting there, let's just say like I've got, I found like a place that I feel provides a little bit of security. I built myself a small campfire. And I look across the lake and I see the ruins of Anuminas as the sun sets. And as the sun goes down, I start to see little fires light up. I hear noises in the ruins of Illuminas that are not human. They're not dwarf, they're not elf. And I suspect that there may be orc. I'm not seeing like thousands of torches, but I'm getting noises and I'm seeing some light. Do they need light though? I guess they can see in the dark. Anyway, that's sort of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing sort of, or maybe, there's some orc, and maybe I do hear some men that have, Southrons or something. And then I look into the center of the lake, and there's one island in particular in the center of the lake where I see a few torches of light. And I wonder what's going on there. And I was sort of like taking it in and, eating a little bit of food. I'm starting to see the constellations appear in the skies. It gets darker and darker. And I hear footsteps. And it's not like I hear footsteps like I'm, my elven ears. It's not like that. It's just they're not trying to sneak up on me. They are not trying to be blatant and let the whole world know they're moving, but they're not trying to get the jump on me. So we, let me see if I can. Now I think this is from, I'm going to activate this. I think this is from, who's Lion, not Lion Banner, that's who makes these. It's Tom Kortos, I forget who, but I bought a Kickstarter from him, and I feel bad that I don't remember his name, because I want to give credit where credit's due. He did a Kickstarter, and he also releases free, it's Tom Kortos or Tom Kortos, I forget which, but I'll see if I can remember to put a link. Jot that down. And I'm not going to worry about it right now. So, yeah, so I'll bring myself onto this camp. Strider, here I am. Obviously, it's a little overdone, but you get the idea. And while I'm, waiting, the two people that sort of were a little like, I don't know if I agree with that entirely. They show up. And so okay, let's get a couple more. We've got Brault. And we've got Rarelock. Okay. So they, we make our acquaintances, and they tell you that, like, look, they tell me. So they tell me that they appreciate, what Hadant was trying to do. They didn't want to speak out of turn, out of line, but they don't agree that it's been 100% quiet here and that things do seem to be changing. And so I sort of look at them, I'm like, oh, so, and what do you mean? And he's like, look, the whole point of why we came here was to get away from everything that's happening in Eriador. It's like things are just going south faster and faster, and maybe it's cowardly of us, but we want no part of it. We just want to live peaceful lives away from it all. We want to not have, everyone else's problems affecting us anymore. We just want to step back and let, the people that are going to get in each other's ways and have it lead to bloodshed, they have to work it out. And it's not our responsibility to be a part of their solution. I'm like, okay. Now, as somebody who's a ranger and a warden, I actively disagree with that. I feel like you can't escape, if you're a part of this world, you have to be on a side. You can't just ignore the problem until it goes away. You have a moral obligation to pick a side and stand for it. Because one way or another, you're benefiting from the other people in some capacity that are picking a side and standing for it. So anyway, so they they sort of explain that. I sort of internally disagree. And so I just say, like, okay, so, tell me what's going on. And they're like, look, you mentioned that you heard some wargs on your way in. There have been sightings. We're not sure how many there might be, but it's something that feels like it's kind of new. And you saw, probably, and then we can see the ruins of Enumenos across the lake. You can see activity over there. So something's going on over there that wasn't always present. And we're not going to lie, we feel like these things sort of coincide with a dwarven camp that has sort of somewhat recently popped up not too far from whatever the name of the town is. Nope, I don't want to create a map node. I'm going to go back to Eriador. And Thornmount. It's in the vicinity of Thornmount. It's not that far away. A little further inward from the lake. Honestly, probably should be where Thornmount is. So let me, you know what I'm going to do? Let me see if it'll let me do this. I'm going to move Thornmount there. And let me see if I now can move... I'm going to hit shift to sort of place it. Okay. It's a little bit northeast, further along the shore of the lake. From Thornmount. And it's a dwarven camp that's recently sort of come into existence. We haven't directly encountered them. Again, obviously you can tell we try and keep to ourselves. So far, it seems like they seem to be doing the same. And so... But I can tell you that, the timing between their arrival and then shortly thereafter, sounds of wargs in the night, sightings throughout the forest, and now the activity in Enumenos, it seems like there might be an argument to be made that they're connected. So, we're not sure what's going on, but... we didn't feel you were getting entirely the full story. And if you're going to be out here, you deserve to know it because, your very life could be impacted by knowing or not knowing that information. So, and I'm like, okay. I thank them. I'm appreciative because, again, this is information that could save my life. And let me see if I do that. Oh yeah, I can just leave it up. Okay, I should do that. I should just leave up. These are from the first adventure, obviously. Okay. So I sort of note that. I'm like, can you tell me roughly where it is? They sort of point to here. So let's get something there to represent that. Place tile. So I now have to sort of find graphics. This is what happened last time. I forgot. I forgot where I put these things. Tiles. Here we go. Let's grab one of these. Let's close that out. Okay. And let's center it a little bit. And there we go. So again, if you remember, maybe you don't remember, each hex is about a day's journey. That's the scale. Again, if I draw, you can see. So, yeah, so, I thank them. Brault and Verloc, they take off, they head back, trying to get back to their camp before sunrise, before anybody can tell that they've been out and, maybe bucking the orders of their leader, Hadant. So, so there we go. So that's sort of that night. And we go to the next day, and I decide, okay, I think I'm going to need to start figuring out if Thornmount's not going to help me, maybe I can find some answers in the Dwarven camp. So now, again, like I said, this is going to be some of the information I'm borrowing is from Tales of the Lone Lands. So sort of like background material, because again, after I randomly generated Thornmount, I did not feel good about it. Just going to say that. Because I felt like this is such a... It's not just that Middle-earth is like a beloved or famous or classic or any of those things as a setting. It's incredibly well documented. Like Tolkien himself, really got into the world building. And so I want to try and do that justice as much as I can, even though I don't have any expertise in the lore. So it's called the Vale of Gold. So let's create a bookmark, create a map note. We're going to call it the Vale of Gold. At some point I should put like journal entries. I can keep track of notes and stuff, but not yet, I guess. Let's change this to basically the same as the other one, if I can figure out what it is. Village. Is there anything else? I'm going to make it an oak tree. Okay. So I make my way to the Vale of Gold the next day. And, okay. And yeah, indeed, there's like a camp of dwarves. And even though they have been here a shorter time than the men to the south, they're actually further along when it comes to building their town up. That's the same. Okay. Sometimes I wonder if I should subscribe to the Patreon for the... who is it? Forgotten Adventures. I think they have a... a Patreon where you can then sort of plug in their maps, like directly into... They have a browser, you can import them and stuff like that, so... Oh well. So let's say, so again, I get here, but again, like in this case, like they've already gotten like a hall being built. And, they're really obviously efficient. They're, amassing stone necessary to... I want this guy, Flonar. And then for adversaries, I wonder if they actually give you... Oh, this is interesting. Probably shouldn't be looking at these. Just like dwarves. Yeah, here we go. Just have dwarven assassins. Okay. So it's a similar situation, right? Because again, like we're out here quasi on the frontier. And everything is a little edgier. We're not quite sure where everybody stands with each other, so we keep our distance. And so this time there's less caginess. Oh, mean Flonar. Okay. So Flonar approaches me. And right away, like I can tell, like he's got a cloak. And but his cloak, there's something sort of a little ornate hanging around his neck, and I don't quite know what to make of it. And he sort of approaches me, and he just sort of assumes that maybe I'm from the other camp. And he's like, "Oh, we're about time. We figured you would have came and arranged a greeting well before now. We're only a day's march from each other. We're going to keep running into each other. We probably need to be not on each other's radar, but you know what I mean? Be aware of each other and where we stand, and, try and sort of impress upon each other that we're not here to cause any problems." And I sort of nod, and I don't try and change his mind from his incorrect assumption. And, but I do look around, and let me just sort of give awareness, insight, travel, battle. I'm just sort of looking around at my skills. Explore. Lore. Let's try a lore roll. Great success. Okay. Because I got a 6. Yeah, that's pretty good. So I look and I say, you look like you hail from the Blue Mountains. And he sort of smirks, and he's like, "Oh, you got a keen eye for your dwarven detail." And I give him a nod, and I say, "Are you pushing further east? Are you trying to sort of expand territory? Like, what do you here in Numinos? It's not like there are any." Let's bring up the map really quickly. Bring up this one. These hills, I could see being of some interest to the dwarves, but I feel like if you were truly going to mine, it would be either further into the Blue Mountains or would you push further east? And, he looks me over. Wrong one. And he looks me over. And he's like, "Actually, we're actually coming from the east. But, that's of our concern. So... just why don't you tell us why you're here, and maybe, you can be on your way." And he sort of waits for my answer, and I just sort of give it a moment's thought. I'm like, "Well, I decided to just come clean." And I tell him, like, I'm a ranger, and I am also a warden, sent here on the request of Gilrain, queen of blah, blah, blah. I sort of do some name dropping. And, and he's sort of like, oh, okay. I mean, the names mean something, even if me being a warden does not. There's respect for lineages of kings and things like that. But he's like, well, so are you with that other warden that I see running around leading that other camp? And I'm like, no. And I keep the rest of the details, like the fact that I know he's a warden. I know that he's sort of abandoned his post, so to speak. I don't get into any of that, but I just like, no, I'm not from that town. Again, I'm here scouting on behalf of Gilrain, Lady Gilrain, hearing rumors that the Eye of the Shadow has sort of taken a stronger interest in this area of the world recently. And Lady Gilrain was wondering why. And to be honest with you, the men of the other camp seem to think it might have something to do with your arrival. And with that, he bristles a little bit. Let me get an insight. Awareness, sorry. Awareness? Yeah. No. Insight is what I'm looking for. Awareness is like, did I see the footprints? I think insight is like, did I see his nostrils flare? So let's see. That's bad. Could have been worse. Okay, so he bristles. But I just sort of assume it's kind of like a how dare they. Now, I confess I've read some of the background material, so I have an idea of what's going on, but my character does not. And so I sort of like, okay, maybe I'm causing problems here. I'm going to get these two groups into like an antagonist position without really intending to. And I'm like, look. You must have seen Presence of Wargs. You must be able to see across the way torches in the ruins of Illuminas and the sounds that do not sound like, normal, common Western speech. And he's like, yeah, no, you're right. You're not wrong. And he's like, but, we've only been here a short time. I didn't appreciate that was a new development. And so I sort of look him over and I'm like, yeah. So let's do another council session. I'm like, look, can I convince you to meet with the men to the south and discuss what's going on and how maybe, even if you're not true allies, maybe you can at least guard each other's flanks, blah, blah, blah. And, okay, so is that a reasonable request? I think it is a middle of the road. Wow, certain yes. Woof. Not having any luck with this table. Roll again, just make sure it works. Yeah, so middling was in my mind, it felt like a middling request. Okay, so because of that, the resistance is going to be set to 6 again. Wow, okay. So for my introduction, I'm going to be doing, was it courtesy or awe? Let me just double check. I think it's courtesy or awe, and I think both of mine are the same. Page 106 in the rulebook. Okay, so introduction. We can use awe or courtesy. Or I can use riddle. Okay. Now, how do I justify riddle, though? this is interesting. This is something that, man, when Matt and I think we were talking about CBR PNK Cyberpunk, which is sort of a Forged in the Dark style game. The thing that I thought Matt pointed out that I thought was pretty interesting was the idea that because you have so few skills, you're only going to be really exceptional at one of them, so to speak, maybe. That's sort of how it went when we did it. And when that's the case, you find a way to make a case that whatever you're doing fits that skill, even though or you have to sort of tell yourself like, hey, it makes more sense to do this than to do the thing I'm really good at. And so I'm trying to think how I could actually use Riddle. That's sort of the long-winded way of sort of trying to figure out how to use Riddle. And I don't know if I have a way to do it. So I'm going to do Courtesy, even though I'd be better at Riddle. Given how my last one went, I'm going to spend a hope point. Now, I think if this were a journey, I would be inspired because of one of my abilities. But now, if I can figure out a way, I can get a bonus die if I can use one of my distinctive features. Page 46. Yeah, I don't know. It's not on there. It's the wrong page. Swift, secretive, shadow lore strider. Okay. While journeying, which I'm not doing. Okay. Shadow lore. Because I feel like that might actually be applicable, so let me just double check. Shadow lore is... Okay, page 46 wasn't entirely off base. It just wasn't... Let me go back a little bit. Okay, here we go. It's a Warden Shadow Lore. Oh, it is page 46. What am I talking about? You recognize that there is a hidden thread. Oh, yeah. Unifying most of what is malicious, dark, and terrible in Middle-earth, and that the thread is thickening year after year. So I think that's the case. I mean, it's literally the case where, like, hey, your presence might be a connection. So I'm going to give myself a bonus die for that. I don't know if there's a penalty for doing that, but... And here we go. Okay. So I knocked that one out of the park. And what that means is I get a 4. I get 4 turns plus extra turns for each 6. So I'm going to get 6 turns to get 6 successes. Okay. That seems doable. Persuade is not great. Again, Riddle's my best. Song, no. Insight's not the worst. I'm going to try Insight for the first roll. Basically, I'm trying to sort of read the person in front of me a little bit. Woof. Okay. It's like a total poker face. I don't get anything from that. I'm like, huh, okay. And so now I'm going to figure out how to do Riddle. What is, like, again, it's not like the... so you would say that you would agree, but I'm trying to make the case. I'm trying to sort of talk around him. I guess that's similar to what I'm describing. But yeah, I guess that's sort of the approach. Sort of a sleazy car salesman approach. Okay, so that's one success. So now we're into turn 4. You know, again, similar to what I was describing with CBRPNK, like it's sort of an interesting thing when you have like a mechanically sort of simple procedure. It's really on you. Like if you just literally do the thing, I'm going to roll riddle 5 more times or 4 more times. And I don't know how to necessarily justify it. Maybe in this case, like I'm dropping... I can't use lore. Maybe it's almost like a conspiracy theory. Like, look, man, it's all connected. Maybe that's the riddle. So it's... we've burned 2, and we've gotten 1 success. So we've got 4 more turns. Oh my goodness. This is crazy. Okay. So that's 3 turns, 1 success. Again, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, so just roll. 4 turns, 2 successes. So I have 2 turns to get 4 successes. One turn to get 4 successes. Ah, goodness. So I think... last time I missed it by 1. This time I missed it by like 4. So let me just see if how many you miss it by. Impacts it. Okay. Failure or success with woe. The company scores a number of successful rolls but fails to match. Player heroes can now choose to simply fail or be refused what they asked for. Oh, and be refused what they asked for. Or, with the approval of the lore master, they can opt to achieve their stated... Okay. So, for example, they gain from the council much less than they were asked for, but they get a little bit. But there's also disaster. Player heroes fail all their available rolls, or score a number of successful rolls, but fail to match the resistance after a botched introduction. Did I botch the introduction? I did not botch the introduction. Oh, that's interesting. So I wonder, because I failed the introduction in the last one, should that have been a disaster? Because I failed the introduction and then I failed to hit the number. When I was just sort of doing a regular failure, I wasn't going to get myself a success with woe. Well, it is what it is. The men to the south, they were not accommodating, but were not hostile. I'm going to say it's similar here because I had such a strong introduction roll. I think it was like a 25. Yeah, it was really good. So I'm going to say like, hey, hey kid, you seem like an okay guy. But we're not going to meet with the people in the south. We're not going to do any of this. So let's just stay out of each other's way, and we will try and figure out how to proceed from there. And I'm like, okay. And so, man, this went so poorly. This went so poorly. Yeah, so with that, another day is spent. Yeah, another day is spent. And, return to my camp. And I think about how to proceed. So, I haven't really I've gotten scant bits of information from the people here. There does seem to be a shadow presence here in the area. The dwarves didn't realize it was new. The men to the south were it seems to be connected to the dwarves. I can't get a read on Flornar, whatever the dwarf's name was, in Vale of Gold. And so I think, okay, I might have to tackle this from a different direction. And maybe that direction is the increased activity in Numinas. And we will fade to black there. Yeah, we'll fade to black there. So, it's not, I'm not trying to make these things 3 hours long. Of course, you can maybe tell my voice is starting to go a little bit, but, we sort of have the next chapter in this story. We explored the two groups that seem to be at odds with each other, got a few council sessions in that both went quite poorly, and I'll have to see if I can turn elsewhere for information, and that elsewhere will be Numinas. So we'll leave it with me sort of establishing another camp on the shore, returning to my campsite. I don't know if that's smart or not. Maybe that would be dumb. And then 2 dwarves come and say, hey, we heard it. No, just kidding. So we'll leave it from there, and we'll pick this up the next time there's an opportunity for a solo game. Wishing Patrick and Mac the best. They have it's not bad. It's just everybody's been super busy. And so hoping things calm down. And because I would love to get back to, especially, I can't wait to get back to Symbaroum. I gotta say, I'm actually excited. We're also running the 2 things we got going, Matt's Symbaroum game and my Mithras Imperative Cold War Spy game. That's getting, I'm hoping, really close to wrapping up. If I had my way, I'd figure out a way to do it in one more session, but I don't know if that's possible. So I'm really, and what that means is once, we conclude that, we can just focus entirely on Symbaroum for a while. So I'm really excited for both the conclusion of the story and getting more Symbaroum. So anyway, if you check this out, you already found our YouTube channel. Thank you. Like and subscribe if this is your thing. If you prefer audio versions of these things, just search for Black Lodge Trivia Night wherever you get your podcasts, and our feed should show up there. We have a couple of CRPG things that I do. I'm doing the book quests for Lord of the Rings Online, which is kind of a big, stupid undertaking, but it's been a lot of fun. And then the other thing I'm messing with is Ultima 5. And at the time of this recording, I'm about to enter into some dungeons, which may be where I nope out of Ultima 5 once for all. We'll have to see how it goes. But thank you for the people that check this out. This was fun trying to figure out if I could do this live. And I'm not done yet. We can still screw this up. So thank you very much. And we'll talk soon. Thanks. How do I do this? The in-session music was provided by Tabletop RPG Music and composed by Ian Fisher. You can find the Patreon at www.patreon.com/tabletop RPG music. That's all one word.